The Mortal Kombat tier list train on this channel has made stops at classic ninjas,
Get over here!
cyber ninjas, female ninjas, sub-bosses, and most recently, final bosses.
You suck.
And the community has given me the guidance I need to continue this journey.
You will not see the end of this day.
The concept of guest characters in the Mortal Kombat series has become a hot topic in the community. Some love the idea of iconic non-MK characters invading and bringing unique twists to the violence we all enjoy.
I'm your worst nightmare.
Others would prefer more MK characters in their MK games, but no matter which side of the fence you're on, guest characters get people talking, and it's clearly a concept that is not going away anytime soon. In today's video, I'll be diving deep into all 14 guest characters in the Mortal Kombat series, beginning with MK9 and ending with MK1, ranking them from S, which is the best, through D, which is the worst. The criteria for this one will remain mostly the same, but I have added one crucial category to accurately judge Mortal Kombat's rendition of these characters. Those categories are as follows: backstory, ending, special moves, finishers, design, and faithfulness to the source material. As we know, more guests are expected to join MK1, which means we'll have the opportunity to revisit and rework this list at a later date. I'm eager to hear your ranking, so don't forget to drop them in the comment section. And without any further ado, let's get to it and rank every guest character in Mortal Kombat history.
You will not see the end of this day.
We begin with what many consider the best and most fitting guest character in the Mortal Kombat series, Kratos, the God of War. Interestingly, Kratos is the only character on the list available at launch, rather than being part of a combat pack downloadable content. However, Xbox players were furious to learn that Kratos was exclusive only to PlayStation 3. Apart from one other character we'll address later, Kratos is the only character from another game series to venture into Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat co-creator Ed Boon did confirm that Sweet Tooth from the Twisted Metal series was considered for a PlayStation exclusive appearance. They ultimately settled on Kratos, but Marcus Phoenix of the Gears of War franchise was also considered for an Xbox exclusive appearance, but that never happened. In any case, since God of War is a Sony title, Kratos became the second platform exclusive character following Chameleon in Mortal Kombat Trilogy and Armageddon, respectively exclusive to Nintendo 64 and Wii. The reveal for Kratos was absolutely insane, and in my opinion is one of the best trailers of all time.
Finish him.
Kratos' bio in the series tells the story of a bloodthirsty warrior from ancient Greece. Mortal once more, Kratos withdrew from the ages-old clash between men and gods, but his solitude was broken when he was ripped through time and space. As the madness subsided, Kratos found himself in present-day Outworld, kneeling before Shao Kahn. To ensure his victory in Mortal Kombat, the Emperor had invoked an ancient ritual, sacrificing the souls of Vanguard to summon and enslave the most powerful warrior of all time. But the spell alone could not contain Kratos, who soon regained his free will. Enraged by Shao Kahn's arrogance, Kratos vowed to rip the warlord's spine from his body. The God of War had returned to battle. Those who conquered the arcade ladder would witness this ending.
As he slowly faded from this place and time, Kratos was approached by Raiden and Fujin. Though he did not count them among his enemies, Kratos had never been beloved by these gods. He prepared for combat. To his surprise, they bowed to him, a show of respect he had not seen from an immortal in many an age. Raiden explained that though his motives were not pure, Kratos had saved Earthrealm. He was owed a debt of gratitude. As he returned to his own world, Kratos nodded silently. Their change of heart would perhaps prove useful one day. A debt of gratitude is often dearly paid.
Kratos has a unique moveset in MK9, as you might expect. He primarily utilizes the Blades of Exile, pulled directly from God of War 3. His special attacks include Apollo's Bow, Head of Helios, Hermes' Dash, Golden Fleece, and Zeus Rage. His X-ray centers around the Namine Cestus, which also comes into play in one of his fatalities. Overall, Kratos' moveset is pretty good, and it definitely suits the character, making solid use of the different weapons at his disposal. As for his finishers, he pulls out the Blade of Olympus for this one,
Kratos wins. Fatality.
and the second features Medusa's Gaze and the Namine Cestus.
Kratos wins. Fatality.
So both make great use of the weapons from God of War 3, but the first one is better in my opinion. As for his design, I'm wondering what more you could possibly want out of Kratos in a Mortal Kombat game. NetherRealm perfectly captured Kratos' God of War 3 appearance, turning him into a fighting game character through and through. I have zero complaints on that front, but I'm not a super fan of the God of War series like some others, so if you're an expert, let me know your thoughts. Now the question of all questions. Is Kratos faithful to the source material in MK9? I mean, I'd have to say yes. He looks identical to the in-game portrayal, and many of his iconic weapons are included in this game. There's even a God of War 3 stage named the Chamber of the Flame, featuring 3 different fatalities, which we haven't seen in any guest character since. My research indicated that this is taken from a God of War 3 stage that houses Pandora's Box and the Flame of Olympus. This is where Kratos and Zeus battle. Since this was the inaugural guest character, it's more of a primitive version, but I'm impressed with the finished product and believe it is faithful to God of War 3. Also, one last note from a faithfulness perspective. Kratos' mouth does not move when opponents perform fatalities and X-rays, per Sony's request, since he is a fearless warrior. Various fatalities do not have the same result on Kratos as they do on other characters. I have zero negative remarks regarding Kratos' guest appearance in MK9, apart from the exclusivity aspect. As a former Xbox diehard, I only had a 360 for years before getting a PS3. I hated that Kratos was only available on PlayStation. I eventually got a PS3, but as someone who played in tournaments for MK9, I didn't use Kratos much because he wasn't tournament legal. Regardless, Kratos in MK9 delivers on all parameters I mentioned in the intro. I will point out that Kratos' lines in MK9 are ripped directly from the game. Although it is the same voice actor that you would find in God of War 3, he didn't re-deliver the lines for MK9 specifically. Based on my assessment, I have no reason not to put Kratos in the S tier, and I hope we get to see this character again at some point. I think he's absolutely perfect for Mortal Kombat.
nightmare begin. Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat downloadable content available now.
Next on the list is the Nightmare on Elm Street himself, Frederick Charles Krueger, better known as Freddy Krueger. This character also appeared in MK9 as part of the DLC pack that also included Rain, Scarlet, and Kenshi. This was quite the crossover, but not the first time Freddy would venture outside the Nightmare on Elm Street film series. Horror fans and even non-horror fans may remember Freddy vs. Jason, the 2009 movie where the two slasher icons clashed. It's definitely no coincidence that Jason would join the MK series just one game after Freddy. Unfortunately, that was such a missed opportunity. Anyway, Freddy Krueger's MK9 bio says that he is a malevolent spirit of the dream realm. He preys on the souls of the living as they sleep. When Shao Kahn began to steal Earthrealm's souls Freddy considers his own, Freddy battled the Emperor in the dream realm. Shao Kahn was too strong and pulled Freddy into the real world where he became mortal and the Emperor defeated him. Freddy then fitted both his hands with his patented razor gloves. Desiring to eliminate Shao Kahn, he plans to do so and then make his way back to the dream realm and torment Earthrealm souls. After defeating Shao Kahn in the arcade ladder, this is Freddy's ending.
Though Freddy had saved Earthrealm, Nightwolf recognized him as an evil spirit, and in a shamanistic ritual, sent him back to the dream realm. But that decision proved ruinous. Freddy did not resist. He welcomed a return to immortality. From the dream realm, he will again create a nightmare in Earthrealm.
Freddy's moves mostly center around the gloves, with the Hell Spike, Glove Toss, and Freddy Fingers. He also has Sweet Dreams, which puts the opponent to sleep, and the Dream Shift, which can teleport you toward or away from the opponent. His throw is also a callback to the series. Freddy also has a Nightmare stance which he can string into other attacks. His first fatality is called Tell 'em Freddy Sent Ya, where he appears behind the opponent, impales them with the glove hand, and pulls them down into a crater of blood before it erupts. Pretty gruesome. In fatality number 2, also known as Welcome to My Nightmare, he summons an incinerator, impales the opponent, and throws them into the incinerator before slamming the door shut, chopping off their arm. The fatalities are decent, but not what I would expect out of one of the biggest horror icons in history. Design-wise, Freddy looks true to form, but MK9 uses the 2010 Freddy rather than the Robert Englund Freddy appearance. That means they decided to use this Freddy from the 2010 remake rather than the Freddy many of us grew up with. In this regard, it's okay, but not the best. Probably a 6 out of 10. As I much prefer the Freddy Krueger that was around for nearly 20 years. However, in 2017, Ed Boon confirmed that original Freddy actor Robert Englund in fact voiced the character for MK9, so that's definitely a positive. Although, as I mentioned, the in-game model seems to utilize the Jackie Earle Haley likeness from the 2010 remake. As a result, it's a little inconsistent, but perhaps there's some legal ramifications there. From what I understand, Freddy is the reason MK9 was delisted from Steam and you can't find it on PlayStation Network anymore. Getting back to the faithfulness, there are some references to the source material, such as the woman in Freddy's ending bearing resemblance to the poster of the first movie. His moves and fatalities also heavily reference the movies, which is a brilliant touch and much needed. Lastly, I wanted to point out that Freddy uses 2 gloves in the game rather than 1, but his bio explains why, so it's acceptable. I remembered Freddy as more of a disappointment when I played MK9, but NRS really did do a pretty damn good job. The moves are definitely there, but there's something a bit underwhelming about Freddy that I can't quite explain. Looking back, you can tell that the devs were just getting their feet wet with guest characters, so it doesn't feel entirely polished like they do nowadays. With that said, I'm not a huge fan of his appearance, and I feel his fatalities and moves could have been more creative. Also, I think Freddy would have greatly benefited from more detailed voice lines and interactions, but those did not quite make it into the series until MKX. Overall, I think Freddy fell short of expectations because I don't think his deranged personality is on display, so I'll put him in the C tier. What better way to follow up Freddy Krueger than with another horror icon, Jason Voorhees. Hailing from Crystal Lake sporting his patented hockey mask, Jason helmed the Friday the 13th franchise from the second movie on with an incredible body count. While known more as a bruiser than a fighter, Jason has battled Freddy before, so he has some combat experience. He debuted in Mortal Kombat X as the first DLC character, launching on May 5th, 2015. His bio explains that death and revenge make up the very core of Jason Voorhees. He died as a young boy, his mother killed out of grief and rage. When she was murdered, Jason returned and avenged her. Many times since, the living have tried to send him back to the realm of the dead. He's been stabbed, drowned, electrocuted, hurled into space, but Jason cannot be killed and cannot be stopped. The explanation behind Jason's arrival in the MK universe is actually hilarious. Revenant Liu Kang recruits him to fight for the Netherrealm, and in response, he chokes Liu Kang with his entrails. The 3 variation system in MKX allowed these guest characters to shine beyond the restrictions of MK9. For Jason, his variations were Slasher, Relentless, and Unstoppable. In addition to giving the character different abilities and moves, each variation provides a slightly different appearance. Slasher focuses on the machete, swapping the special moves available in the other variations and giving him the moves Bloodshed, Machete Toss, and Psycho Slash. Relentless gives him Pursuit, which restricts the opponent's movement, and Lake Mist, which is a teleport. Unstoppable gives you Punishment, which increases your health over time, Rise, which increases your damage for a brief period, and Resurrection, which brings you back to life, but your health meter depends on your super meter. Apart from the variation-specific moves, Jason also had the Killing Machine, Temple Punch, Choke, Backbreaker, Tight Squeeze, and Corpse Grab. His 2 fatalities offer a definite 80s Jason vibe. In the first, dubbed Kill for Mother, he slices the opponent with his machete to the tune of the chilling Jason track. The other depicts Jason just savagely slamming the opponent and ripping their leg off. Normally I'd say these finishers are lame, because they kind of are, but they are perfect for Jason. Jason also has several brutalities, which definitely make up for his lackluster fatalities. They're all gruesome, and most of them require very specific circumstances to execute them properly.
Jason wins.
From a design perspective, I think NRS did a great job with Jason. It draws from his most recent appearances in Freddy vs. Jason in 2003 and the 2009 Friday the 13th reboot. I like that Jason's unstoppable variation is a nod to Part 7, and the developers clearly did their research in that regard, considering the references and similarities to the movie version. As someone who has watched the Friday the 13th series quite a few times, I'd say Jason is a home run in this game. The fact that he can bring himself back from the dead is such a brilliant touch, and something NRS would repeat with other characters down the line. His moves and fatalities are themed appropriately, although you can catch glimpses of Jason enduring pain, which just isn't the case in the films. Also, the glorious presence of hacks gave us a look at the facial model under Jason's mask, and he just looks like a regular guy rather than the deformed person we see in the movies. It's not a huge demerit since we aren't supposed to see his face anyway, but I thought it was worth pointing out. Despite Jason rarely ever moving at more than a snail's pace, NetherRealm's effort to make him a believable fighter is impressive. Jason is a solid addition to Mortal Kombat, and it's certainly not the last horror icon we'd see in the series, or even in this game. His moves and looks are good, and although I like the simplicity of his fatalities, they do feel a little oversimplified. I mean, one is supposed to be a nod to the sleeping bag kill, but he doesn't even put the enemy in a sleeping bag. It may sound a little nitpicky, but it does slightly bother me. Either way, the fact that Jason can teleport and return from defeat are incredible nods to the film series, and I like the package presented in MKX overall. I can't quite put Jason in the S tier, so he'll land in the A tier. Following Jason in the chronology of guest characters was the Predator from the Predator franchise. The Predator is an alien of the Yautja species, hailing from its home planet, Yautja Prime. There's also the Hish Q-10, introduced in a standalone Predator novel written by John Shirley, which bears a strong resemblance but some slight differences. This is important to note for one of Predator's 3 variations in Mortal Kombat X. In the film series, the Predator typically arrives on an unfamiliar planet to eliminate soldiers, which is essentially a trophy hunt using an arsenal of high-tech weapons. When he's not hunting unsuspecting enemies in a jungle or a concrete jungle, the Predator famously clashes with Xenomorphs in Alien vs. Predator, setting up a fantasy matchup in this very game. The Predator arrived alongside Jason Voorhees in MKX Combat Pack 1, debuting on July 7th, 2015. His bio explains that he is not here to rule us. He does not wish to rule the realms. He and others of his alien race merely fight and kill for sport and honor. There is much combat in Earthrealm. Shao Kahn and then Shinnok thought themselves conquerors. They were defeated. The Predator will not be. The humans, Outworlders, and Netherrealm demons will fall to his superior weapons, tactics, and strength. Their skins will make fine trophies. The Predator's ending reveals that he arrived on Earth, defeated Shinnok, and took Shinnok's amulet. The Predator analyzes this artifact and learns the ways of sorcery, making him an even more unstoppable force.
This world called Earth produced many worthy opponents, which made for excellent sport. Some possessed a power previously unknown to the Predator's race, sorcery. The Predator sought to harness this new power for use in his conquests. He analyzed a trophy from a recent battle and eventually discovered its secrets. With the power of sorcery, the Predator was unstoppable and decimated whole worlds single-handedly. He had become the apex predator.
The Predator's moves might be the best in this game, definitely for a guest character. Since he has such an expansive selection of weapons, MKX puts them to great use. First, let's discuss his variations. Warrior removes his biomask, exposing his natural Predator face, while adding the Yautja Strike, Dread Slam, and Self-Detonate. The Hunter variation adds dark-colored armor plates, similar to its appearance in the second film. For moves, he gets a med kit, trap, and snag attack. The most popular variation was Hish Q10, which we mentioned earlier, adding the plasma cannon to his shoulder while giving him a plasma shot and plasma caster. For his non-variation specific moves, he gets stealth, various smart disc based moves, a scimitar stab, and a scimitar slam. Before addressing his fatalities, I want to mention that the Predator's brutalities are all absolutely incredible.
Predator wins. Brutality. Predator wins. Flawless victory. Brutality. Predator wins.
Especially the final countdown, but I also enjoy the If It Bleeds and Skinned Alive, particularly the one that is specific to the Xenomorph. As for his fatalities, the ghosting us one is pretty good.
Predator wins. Fatality.
But the certain death fatality is brilliant and makes great use of thermal vision. Predator's appearance in MKX draws from the original movie, showing him both with armor and without armor. This is arguably his most iconic look in the long-running series, but there are elements taken from other films, particularly the trap from Alien vs. Predator. I also appreciate how MKX captures the character's stature, considering they stand a minimum of 7 feet tall. Everything from the look, to the noises, to the laugh, to the gadgets is absolutely perfect in this game. Faithfulness to the source material is on full display here. I outlined most of it in the previous segment, so I'll just reiterate it here. I love the different variations that broaden what could have been a reduced moveset otherwise. The look of the Predator itself is very well done, and I even appreciate the nod to Arnold's famous line in the original film, performed by none other than Bo Raicho.
You're one ugly motherfucker.
And who can beat this movie-accurate interaction between the Predator and the Xenomorph?
Round 1. Fight.
The Predator is undoubtedly atop the list for me when it comes to guest characters in the Mortal Kombat franchise. NRS nailed every fine detail, and I don't think there's really anything that I would add. Based on everything I mentioned, I think it's a strong enough case, and I'm happy to add this to the S tier. In the Mortal Kombat universe, everyone can hear you scream. The Xenomorph from Alien is up next, but in MKX, it's just called Alien. This character followed Jason and the Predator in Combat Pack 2, bringing the total of horror icons in the MK series to 4. Similar to the Predator series, Alien has various films in its franchise, but these ones could get pretty confusing. In any case, Alien is an excellent series with arguably one of the best movie monsters ever shown on screen. The life cycle of a Xenomorph is quite complex. It begins as an egg birthed by an alien queen, which hatches into a facehugger, which attaches itself to a host before the Xenomorph ultimately bursts from the host's chest. The Xenomorph's blood is acidic, they have a spike-tipped tail, and an inner jaw that emerges from inside its mouth. The movie series has described them as the quote-unquote perfect organism. In the context of Mortal Kombat, the Xenomorph also utilized Tarkatan blades, which we'll explain shortly because it's an amazing explanation. The alien's bio states that the Xenomorphs descended on Outworld long ago, but the dormant eggs they left behind were only recently found. The leader of the Tarkatan patrol had picked up one of the leathery orbs, only to have it burst open and its occupant latch itself to his face. Later, after the facehugger had fallen off, the alien progeny burst from the unfortunate Tarkatan's chest, bearing characteristics of both a Xenomorph and host. It eludes the rest of the Tarkatan soldiers and eventually killed them. The creature now roams Outworld looking for more hosts. Its amazing strength and animal fury make the alien almost unstoppable. In Alien's ending, he defeats Shinnok and finds various intriguing species to use as hosts. A few shown in the ending include a Shokan and the Ferrator symbiotic race. Once a queen alien spawns, the new hive multiplies quickly, and despite Kotal Khan's attempt to stop the invasion, the Xenomorphs are now in control.
The alien tore through Shinnok's flesh, reducing him to a bloody pulp. The creature then returned to its nest in Outworld. It continued to venture forth looking for suitable hosts for use in establishing a new hive. The alien found more than a few intriguing species and dragged them back to its lair. Once a queen had been spawned, the alien's new hive multiplied quickly and spread unchecked throughout the realm. Emperor Kotal Khan attempted to save Outworld in a desperate final attack on the alien's main nesting ground. The attack failed. Outworld belonged to the aliens.
The Xenomorph's moveset uses many of the traits I mentioned earlier, while adding Tarkatan blades, which is so cool. His variations are as follows. Tarkatan gives him the classic Baraka moves like the Chop Chop, Blade Spin, and other blade-based attacks. His head looks slightly different in this variation, and he obviously gets the Tarkatan blades. The acidic variation gives him the Exo Sting, and Acid Blood, perfect for setups and damage over time. He has a smooth, more traditional head in this variation with acid dripping from its tail. I think this is the closest comparison to the original Alien in the first movie. The less used Conjurer variation gives Alien the Ovomorph move, which is basically a facehugger egg. And a drone drop, which depicts another Xenomorph basically dropping onto the opponent. His base non-variation specific moves available include the tail flip, Xeno Strike, Tail Snag, and Low Crawl. Alien's first fatality features a cameo appearance by a queen alien, who appears and impales the opponent before tearing them in half. The second fatality, called Deadly Hybrid, makes use of the Tarkatan blades to lift the opponent before the inner jaw emerges and finishes the opponent off. Alien's brutalities are incredible. Although Conjurer wasn't a popular variation, the alien baby brutality that exists for this variation is just perfect. This brutality varies depending on the opponent. Using it on Predator results in a Predalien, a direct reference to the Alien vs. Predator films.
Brutality. Alien wins.
Like the Predator, NRS perfected the Alien in MKX. It's a tricky proposition since this monster is not your usual fighting game character. Its stature and movement is much different than anything we've ever seen in the Mortal Kombat series. Everything from the way the Xenomorph looks to the way it moves is perfectly executed in my opinion. I also feel the developers did a good job incorporating the intricacies of a Xenomorph, and making a Tarkatan-inspired alien is just brilliant execution. The Xenomorph in MKX is absolutely faithful to the source material, at least from my knowledge of the series. It features a Tarkatan host, which for those who haven't watched the series, it's common for a Xenomorph to take traits from its host. The Alien Queen is present, replicating the way it destroyed Bishop in the second film. The alien's brutalities and moveset offer solid references to the series, and apart from the alien's blood not always being acidic, I'm willing to look past that minor detail.
It's game over, man! Game over, man! It's game over!
It's a tall task to put a Xenomorph in a fighting game, and I couldn't be happier with what MKX provided. I've pretty much outlined my feelings throughout this analysis, and I just feel that NRS outdid themselves with this one. The very idea that the developers nailed Predator and Alien, two vastly different characters, speaks to the effort that goes into these concepts. Apart from the lack of a Ripley cameo, or at least a skin for another character, the Xenomorph has everything an Alien fan could want in a fighting game. And for those reasons, the Alien chest bursts its way into the S tier.
What's that on your face? Oh!
Your face is like leather.
The most recent horror character and last guest to join Mortal Kombat X was Jedediah Sawyer, otherwise known as Leatherface. Hailing from Newt, Texas, a fictional town set within the Texas Chainsaw Massacre universe, Leatherface is another unique choice for Mortal Kombat, fitting into the theme happening in MKX. Unlike the ones mentioned thus far, Jedediah has the least amount of combat expertise and fight IQ. Instead, he's a massive, cannibalistic killer whose sadistic family helped bring the Leatherface character to life. He gets the name Leatherface because of his knack for wearing the skins of his victims, usually on his face, hence the name Leatherface. The Texas Chainsaw franchise began in 1974 and spawned sequels, prequels, and reboots. While some of these are all-timers, others not so much. But either way, Leatherface is a horror icon. His MKX bio tells the story of the unusual Sawyer clan from Newt, Texas. They weren't always the nicest, so it comes as no surprise when Leatherface's brothers told him he couldn't come home again until he brought back the best chili meat he could find. But how would Leatherface know it was the best unless he tried everything? He took his chainsaw and his favorite masks and headed off. Leatherface ended up in a lot of strange places. Not long ago, he walked through a glowing, spinning purple doorway and found himself in a crazy city called Zonkara or something. There was plenty of meat to try. So far, Kai Tin was his favorite. Leatherface's ending is horrific, where after defeating Shinnok, he pursues the quote-unquote yellow-haired gum-chewing girl, also known as Cassie Cage. After ripping through the special forces armed with his chainsaw, Jedediah shows her Shinnok's face, which he removed, and she's just not that into him. So he responded by removing her face. Despite not having proper fight training, Leatherface has never really required it before. As a result, his moveset centers around his chainsaw, mallet, and brute force. His first variation, Killer, gives him a berserker stance and an outfit seen in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. The Butcher version adds a gut slice, bloodbath, and mallet-based attacks. His costume for this one closely resembles his appearance in the 2003 remake. Lastly, Leatherface's Pretty Lady variation gives him various saw toss attacks while drawing inspiration from his appearance at the end of the original movie. Outside of his variations, his base special moves include the Psycho Cutter, Spinning Saw, High Saw, Chain Sparks, and Low Saw. Both of Leatherface's fatalities are brutal. Seeing Double makes solid use of his signature chainsaw, while Hook and Sinker features his mallet and meat hook. All of his brutalities play into his character traits, focusing on the chainsaw and mallet. Overall, they're pretty decent, but my favorite is the Tenderizer. I really enjoy what NRS did with Leatherface for this game, since he's not a character you'd expect to see in a fighting game. From a design standpoint, he's a brute and wants to be in your face at all times. That aspect fits his character, and I like how the developers essentially gave him 3 different costumes to represent his variations. Leatherface is always changing appearances, so it's a subtle yet necessary addition. As far as faithfulness is concerned, this is another well-executed concept by NetherRealm. He's not a very deep character, but there are subtle aspects of Leatherface that the developers nailed. One that stands out is the reference in Leatherface's win animation, pulled directly from the end of the original film. Since he has his chainsaw and mallet, those are easy check marks in the faithfulness category. His appearance is another check, and so are his fatalities. And overall, for what Leatherface is as a character, NetherRealm did an admirable job, especially with his playstyle. I like Leatherface in MKX, but I wouldn't say I love this character. It's always fun to see more horror icons in the MK universe, but Leatherface is lower on my list, although that might be just because I'm not a super fan of this franchise. Regardless, as I said before, NetherRealm's version of Leatherface is decent, but the backstory lacks a bit, and I'm just gonna put him into the B tier.
Just can't go around killing people. Why not? You just can't. Trust me.
Leaving Mortal Kombat X in the rear view, we move to Mortal Kombat 11 for the game's first guest character. Cyberdyne Systems Model 101.
Cyberdyne Systems Model 101.
Also known as the T-800 Terminator. Now, before we dig in, I'd like to note right off the rip that our beloved Arnold provided his facial likeness but did not provide the voice. Instead, Chris Cox, known for his work in these games, voiced the Terminator. Having addressed that, the T-800 is the Terminator you may have seen in 2 of the greatest films ever made, and these ones that came after. In the not-so-distant future of 2029, the Skynet Defense Network became self-aware and triggered a global nuclear war. Skynet sent back the first Terminator to 1984 in an effort to kill Sarah Connor and prevent the birth of her son John, who would lead the human resistance against the machines. In Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the human resistance reprogrammed the same model and sent it back to the year 1995 to protect John Connor. The MK11 bio for the Terminator explains that this version is specifically modeled after the one seen in Dark Fate. He is nearly indestructible and possesses superior technology, fighting skills, and artificial intelligence to make him the ultimate killing machine. His ending is actually out of character for the Terminator, which I really enjoy.
It was an epic accident that brought the Terminator here, rather than to his own Earth's past. But it didn't take long for him to adapt. He figured that terminating Kronika and taking her hourglass gave him the best chance at achieving his mission objective: destroying humanity so that the machines prevail. Turns out the hourglass wasn't the ultimate weapon. No matter how many times the Terminator rebooted history, the war between humans and the machines always ended the same, with their mutual destruction. He realized this war was a losing game. The only way to win was not to play. So the Terminator used the hourglass to build a future where machines and humans don't fight. They cooperate. The Terminator knew that to preserve this future, no one else could learn about the hourglass. The information stored in his machine mind was dangerous. It had to be eliminated. That's why the Terminator threw himself into the infinite depths of the Sea of Blood. No one would ever find him, or unlock the hourglass's secrets. If you could ask him about it, he'd tell you he made the only logical choice. But in my book, that machine's a hero.
The T-800's moves pay homage to the series in many ways, specifically the use of a classic shotgun. There are so many moves to name in this game, so here are a few of my favorites. Before getting to his fatalities, I have to shout out the Terminator's fatal blow, which references Scorpion's iconic
Get over here.
Now for his fatalities, and I'll just say that I love them both. The target terminated fatality might be my favorite in the entire game.
Fatality.
I did review his brutalities and thought they were kind of underwhelming, but the animation is a fun nod to T2. The Terminator's design in MK11 looks pretty good, but using the Dark Fate version of the character was a little unfortunate. I don't hate the movie, but it's nowhere near the level of 1 and 2, so it would have been better if they used either of those as the inspiration, but I understand why it had to be this way. In any case, seeing Arnold as a video game version of this character never gets old. He's got the endoskeleton, which I believe is the best part about this character from a design perspective. Some of the other costumes look cool, and others are hilarious. Unfortunately, the Terminator's costumes are a letdown overall, especially compared to the ones included for the other guest characters we'll get to. I also enjoy how the T-800 doesn't make any noises when taking damage. Because that's serious attention to detail, even though he does react to some attacks. Is the Terminator in MK11 faithful to the movies? I'd have to say yes for the most part. Although it's not Arnold's voice, the likeness looks solid and the inclusion of the endoskeleton elevates it significantly, as I said before. The iconic lines are all here, and we even get a glimpse into the war-ridden future in the machine's target terminated fatality. He's got the shotgun, the motorcycle, the box of roses, and many intros are direct references to the source material.
Your guns and your cape. Give them to me.
You forgot to say please.
I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. You forgot to say please.
Can't bargain or reason with you, can I?
No.
It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity, or remorse, or fear.
Haven't we done this before?
I have no record of a previous encounter. We have met. I am sure of it. I have detailed files on human anatomy.
To make you a more efficient killer.
Correct.
I have detailed files on human anatomy.
I bet. Makes you a more efficient killer, right?
Correct.
Any chance we settle this peaceably?
No.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Cyberdyne Systems, Model 101.
Cyberdyne Systems Model 101.
Compared to the guest characters in MK9 and MKX, there is a serious bump in quality for MK11. As a die-hard fan of this franchise, despite its shortcomings, I like what NRS gave us. Sure, it's not the best version of the T-800, but it was done this way in coordination with the newest film in the series at the time. For the negatives, I have to say that the additional costumes come off as somewhat lazy. I think there's a clear copyright issue happening that prevented the developers from getting the more iconic looks, and that overall just detracts from this character's appearance. I also think that the Terminator's weapon usage and overall moves could have been way better. The endoskeleton concept, while cool to look at, is completely useless from a gameplay perspective. The absence of Arnold's voice was also very noticeable, which is unfortunate. I thought Chris Cox did a serviceable job, but it's difficult to capture the greatness of Arnold's voice.
What's up?
Take me to Sarah Connor.
Oh, can't. Gotta get to the chopper.
Now.
Otherwise, I always enjoy seeing Arnold in a video game. I really do like the interactions between the characters and the intros and outros and everything along those lines. All in all, the Terminator is a solid character, but there isn't enough for me to put the T-800 in the S tier. This is one of my favorite concepts and film franchises of all time, but there's just too much lacking for me to put it atop the list. With all that said, and I hate to do this, I have no choice but to put the Terminator in the B tier.
Fuck you, asshole.
You know, you remind me of Bats.
Who is Bats?
Just another jerk with no sense of humor.
From the unstoppable machine, we graduate to Batman's arch nemesis, the Joker. While Ash Williams was initially slotted in this spot, that fell through and NRS had to switch it up. Who better than to use the Joker, who appeared first in Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe and both Injustice games. Of all DC characters from an aesthetic standpoint, I don't think you can find a better character to include than the Joker. I won't deep dive the Joker because most of you probably already know his background, so to keep it short, he's a sadistic clown that wants to wreak havoc upon Gotham City. His MK11 bio keeps it simple, stating that he is unpredictable and incredibly dangerous. He's killed a Robin, crippled Batgirl, and has now entered the Mortal Kombat universe. Joker's ending depicts the character running wild through Earthrealm, Outworld, and the Netherrealm. He and Havoc use the Hourglass to visit the Order Realm to continue the tirade before threatening to visit the player's house. You can also spot everyone's favorite Suhao in this ending. The Joker's weapons in MK11 include a revolver, cane, knives, and even a Batman dummy, which is on brand. Here are some of his special moves. His smile fatal blow is solid, but Joker's Together Forever and Batter Up Brutality stand out as hilarious finishers.
Smile. Never.
His fatalities are also well done. Party Pooper teases the iconic friendship finishers from the Mortal Kombat series before flipping the script. Pop Goes the Mortal makes use of an extended boxing glove and Jack-in-the-Box.
Cats would say that I'm a bad boy, but bodies that tie never gets old.
We've seen the Joker so many times in games, particularly in the Batman Arkham series, which is one of my favorites of all time. That means we have a reasonable sample size to compare MK11 Joker against. With all that said, I think the Joker is a very well done character. Raiden's voice actor Richard Epcar returned to voice the Joker in this game, and that's a huge plus. He provided the voice work for the Joker in MK vs. DC, and based on intro dialogues, this is the same Joker.
Whatever happened to Doc Khan?
Doc Khan?
Oh, that's right. You missed it.
Beyond the voice and look, the Joker's attacks and movements are excellent. I thought NRS did a great job fitting the Joker into this new generation of Mortal Kombat. There are seemingly infinite references to other games like Injustice.
We'll have to make do as a dynamic duo. Only two of us? That's an injustice. What we could do with a third.
And MK vs. DC.
We didn't meet the last time I was here.
This isn't your first visit?
Nobody told you. I was all the rage.
Movies like Batman 89.
You son of a bitch. You stole my face.
I could steal a lot more, clown.
Never rub another man's rhubarb.
Never rub another man's rhubarb.
And The Dark Knight. So as far as faithfulness is concerned, the Joker checks many of those boxes. I'm not deeply entrenched in the comic lore, but I know enough to see that the Joker NRS delivered is a faithful adaptation. The Joker is a welcomed addition to Mortal Kombat 11. It's always fun to see a comic book character cross into this gruesome universe, and there isn't a better option than the Joker outside of maybe Deathstroke. I'm not sure DC would like heroes getting their intestines removed, so Joker is that exception. My positives include the character interactions, specifically those referencing MK vs. DC. His design, brutalities, and special moves are all great as well. Seeing the Joker unleashed in a game like this was fitting, because the ceiling of what's possible is seemingly infinite. For the negatives, I think his ending was generic, and the costumes could have been way better. The Joker has had so many iconic looks over the years, from comic books to games to movies, and I wish they would have capitalized on that for this game, but again, this could be a licensing situation where it's not that easy to get these costumes. Overall, I'm happy to say that NetherRealm nailed the Joker and made him feel right at home in this insanely brutal game. As far as the ranking is concerned, I think the Clown is seriously an A-tier character. Before we continue, I'm wondering, how do you feel about the Joker in MK11? I've seen a lot of mixed opinions, and as someone who isn't a huge comic book reader, maybe that's why the response is so mixed. Let me know your thoughts about the Joker in the comments.
No more jokes. No more laughs.
Sounds like you've got a case of the grumps.
I fucking hate clowns.
The 9th guest character on this list brings us to another comic book creation, Albert Simmons, better known as the Hellspawn anti-hero, Spawn. This character is one that fans have wanted in the Mortal Kombat series since MK9. His tragic backstory, incredible appearance, and weapons made this the perfect option. A former member of the Marine Corps, Albert Simmons rose through the ranks and became a lethal assassin. However, his mentor, Jason Wynn, ordered his assassination because of his growing morality. Simmons is ultimately burned alive, but cuts a deal with the devil in exchange for seeing his family again. He becomes the Hellspawn known as Spawn, and returns to Earth. He assumes the role of a vigilante crime fighter bound by the power of K7 Letha, a parasite that effectively turns him into Spawn, equipped with his cape and powers. Spawn arrived for early access on March 17th, 2020, and his bio pretty much explains everything I just stated, so let's move on to his ending. This ending might be one of the best singular non-canon endings in the history of Mortal Kombat.
It would have cost a lot of power fighting them alone.
but they were being hunted by my new friends. Call them Fire and Ice. They argue constantly, which is why I usually like to roll solo. But when it comes to killing demonic assholes, these guys don't flinch. I can get along with that. The Grandmasters tipped me off to Kronika. Said she was resurrecting some Netherrealm god named Shinnok. But that's not happening on my watch. Kronika's just as much a devil as Malbosia. Both make promises, both tell lies, both underestimate me. That's why I'll make a new hell for them, where they can burn together for eternity. The Netherrealm's locked down, but there's still 8 hells left to purge. It's time to bring up the reserves. I made choices in my life that sealed my fate. I'm beyond redemption. But even the damned are capable of doing some good. So all you devils out there, making false promises and spewing lies, we're coming, and you don't have a chance in hell.
His weapons of choice in MK11 include the aforementioned K7 Letha, a sword, battle axe, mace, hell chains, machine guns, and grenades. His special moves revolve around these weapons and are as follows. His fatal blow, called the 8th Circle of Hell, involves a mixture of weapons and rivals the Terminator and Joker's attacks. His Rest in Pieces fatality is excellent, making use of his cloak and chains until the opponent explodes. His Unchained fatality is similar, where he uses the chain to flay his opponent's skin before using his cape to remove everything except for the opponent's skeleton. Listen, I'm not the biggest Spawn fan in the world, but he's objectively one of the best looking characters ever made. The cape and suit are iconic, and he just belongs in the Mortal Kombat universe. His appearance in MK11 is taken directly from the comic series and film. There are various references to the source material with his design, and there's nothing that rivals it. I'm probably not the best person to assess faithfulness in this regard, but by all accounts, Spawn is a slam dunk. Based on his weapons, moveset, fatalities, and his overall design in particular, it's excellent. After reviewing his intro dialogues, and victory screens, the references are on point. I have to mention that NetherRealm landed Keith David for Spawn's voice work, who voiced the character in the 90s animated series. This was incredible news, as David is synonymous with the character, and the inclusion of his voice made it that much better. I'll show some of the references here compared to the source material, but there are far too many to cover, which is definitely a good thing in this category.
I've encountered your kind in the past.
I'm not the first Spawn, but I'm the best.
I prefer your medieval counterparts.
Another Hell's General.
Recognize the uniform, Scorpion?
I recognize Navabosia's stink.
You're Al Simmons. Worked for Jason Wynn.
The hell do you know about that?
Jason Wynn's an enemy of the state.
You remind me of someone I loved.
Don't let it mess with your head when I beat you.
My head's a mess as it is. You're a hard man to pin down. Why are you following me, dirtbag?
This, clown paid me to.
Last giant bug I met tried to eat me.
You speak of the Flebiacs.
Of course you uglies know each other.
I just can't get past how good Spawn looks in Mortal Kombat 11. That alone bumps him higher than some of the other characters because it feels like extra love went into his design, and I would wager that there has not been a better looking guest character in all of Mortal Kombat. Spawn was almost made to be in this series, and it's fitting that Ed Boon tried to make this happen in MKX, but I'm glad it waited because I don't think it would have looked as good. Getting Keith David definitely made up for the lack of Arnold with the Terminator. This brought Spawn's character full circle, and I can't sing the praises of this character enough, despite not being a super fan of Spawn. Perhaps more die-hard fans could point out some inconsistencies, but I just don't see any, so I'm gonna put the Hellspawn into the S tier.
10-10, need backup now.
You are under arrest, dirtbag. Cease and desist, Spawn.
Vigilantes get you all worked up?
All must obey the law.
Dead or alive, you're going with him. The 80s cyborg law enforcer, RoboCop, is up next. He's the fourth guest character in MK11, and some may argue the most out of left field inclusion. However, with the Terminator and our next guest, it makes more sense. This character debuted in the original RoboCop movie in 1987. The film takes place in a dystopian future set in Detroit. Police officer Alex Murphy is the main character, and after a gang fatally shoots him, he is converted into a RoboCop by the OCP with no recollection of his past. His directives are as follows: serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law. RoboCop's MK11 bio outlines his origin while adding that he received a few upgrades and is ready to apprehend the combatants in the MK universe. In RoboCop's ending, it's explained that he discovered Kano was selling weapons to old Detroit gangs. RoboCop pursued him and ended up in the MK universe, standing face to face with Kronika.
I had one duty: apprehend him. I never thought the chase would take me to a different universe, let alone end in a fight with Kano's protector, Kronika. And when Kronika went down, something unexpected happened. Her power washed over me, sweeping away the limits my designers had put on my programming. For the first time, I saw the depth of OCP's corruption. It wasn't just a couple of greedy executives. It was the whole damned company. OCP is making a killing playing both sides, selling to cops and criminals. When I get home, I am bringing them to justice. It will not be fast or easy. OCP has too much cash and too much firepower for me to clean things up alone. It is a good thing this will be an interagency effort. Welcome to the future of law enforcement.
RoboCop has many firearms at his disposal in MK11, including the Auto 9, Cobra Assault Cannon, gun arm, and a grenade launcher. As for his moves, like the others in MK11, RoboCop has quite a few. Here's a compilation of them. Gameplay-wise, he's okay, but more of a boring zoner than anything else. But his fatalities are impressive, with both making excellent use of his various weapons, and there's even an ED-209 cameo in the one named Dead or Alive. Once again, I feel that NRS designed RoboCop brilliantly in MK11. His default appearance is based on his look in the original film, which is definitely legendary even if you're not familiar with this character. I also have to point out this skin, which is such a perfect tribute to the cyber ninjas from MK3. The voice work, performed by original RoboCop Peter Weller, is a welcomed addition to this surprisingly fun character. Based on my research, RoboCop is yet another MK11 guest that is faithful to the series. As I mentioned before, the RoboCop design is front and center, alongside the voice of Peter Weller. His fatalities, fatal blow, and even some brutalities reference the film series, which is always what you want to see. RoboCop's weapons are all here, and there are various references to the films both in his backstory, ending, and of course, MK11's brilliant dialogue.
You're done making trouble.
You'll have to catch me first, officer.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
Part man, part machine, all cop.
That is correct.
Please tell me no one signed you.
You're still a man and all that shit.
Bad language makes for bad feelings.
Perfect. You're about to feel real bad, motherfucker.
Bad language makes for bad feelings.
There's something wrong, Murphy?
My targeting system is a little messed up.
We can get that fixed.
My targeting system is a little messed up.
Come quietly, Joker.
Or what, Dodo Cop?
There will be trouble.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
I specifically like the reference to the Terminator vs. RoboCop series.
Haven't we done this before?
I have no record of a previous encounter.
We have met. I am sure of it.
Also, there's this one between Jax and Joker before RoboCop even came out.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Whatever you say, RoboCop.
Overall, RoboCop is a solid addition to the growing list of guest characters in this series. He fits the half theme of 80s action heroes going on in this game, and although RoboCop isn't a huge name nowadays, the franchise has a massive following. It's unfortunate that it hasn't translated well to the current times, but MK11 somewhat brought it back into the limelight. As for my ranking, I have to say that RoboCop is good, but not great, putting him in a similar category as the Terminator. The design, look, and faithfulness are all on point, as are his finishers, but the moveset is a little bland for my liking. With that in mind, RoboCop lands himself in the B tier.
Look up the word Rambo in the dictionary, and you'll find it means one-man army.
You got one last chance to rethink this. You're not haunted by what happened.
I have programming which dulls the stress.
Glad someone tried helping you cope.
In town, you're the law. Out here, it's John Rambo. Our journey through the guest characters takes us from one 80s icon to another. Rambo rounded out the MK11 DLC as the final guest character in a seriously stacked lineup. For anyone unfamiliar with the Rambo series, John Rambo, famously played by Sylvester Stallone, is a former Green Beret who's been subjected to all sorts of horrible things during the Vietnam War, resulting in severe PTSD. Rambo's movies are famous for heavy artillery and bloodshed. Sound familiar? John Rambo's MK11 bio states he is a former US Special Forces soldier deeply haunted by his time in Vietnam. He is rough, aggressive, and is well known for entering exceptionally dangerous situations alone. Rambo has reactivated his ruthless fighting skills to infiltrate the MK universe. Rambo's ending is actually quite touching, explaining that Kronika was the toughest enemy he had ever fought. He ultimately defeated her before contemplating his options with control of the hourglass. He could have righted every wrong in history, but decided to just walk away. A poetic end to Rambo's stay in the MK universe.
At first I hoped to right every wrong in history. But then I figured out doing it meant I'd have to decide the fates of billions. Picking who lives and who dies for eternity? It was going to kill my soul. I'd end up no better than those old men who sent us off to war, not giving a shit about what would happen. And that's not the man I want to be. It's time to walk away for good this time, leaving the pain and the ugliness behind. After all I've been through, I've earned a little peace.
This ending is eerily similar to the 2008 Rambo movie. Like the Joker, Rambo is a human with no supernatural abilities, but he has firearms, and lots of them. His arsenal in this game includes an M60 light machine gun, a compound bow, Bowie knife, traps, and claymore mines. Rambo fans know this is the true loadout. Here's a compilation of the many special moves available at his disposal. Both of Rambo's fatalities are excellent direct references to actual scenes in the movie. I'll try to show as much as I can, but they are gruesome. His brutalities are incredible. Here's a few of them. Much like Spawn, RoboCop, and even Joker to an extent, Rambo's default appearance takes inspiration from his appearance in the films, particularly Rambo 3. His unmistakable red headband is also present in one of his selectable costumes, alongside others from different films in the franchise. Beyond his aesthetic, getting Sylvester Stallone for this made the character even better in-game, as the actor is Rambo. His gameplay design is perfect based on his weapon selection, offering a blend of zoning and aggression depending on how you want to use him. The Rambo references are on point. From Stallone's likeness to the voice, his look, and weapons, it's all here. As with all MK11 guests, the intro dialogues, and victory poses all reference Rambo's background throughout the film series.
I guess this.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished.
I can't ignore his fatalities or brutalities, which also pay tribute to many memorable Rambo moments. I know I didn't mention this in previous sections, but the references to other Stallone films in the character dialogues are also hilarious and completely on the nose.
Stop, or my mom will shoot.
Your mother's not even here.
Don't worry, she'll find you.
My God, you're big.
Filled with dread, human?
Yeah, but don't judge me for it.
Rambo also has a mixture of heartfelt and funny interactions with other characters.
You have gone too far.
I did what I had to do to win.
And I did what I had to do to win, but somebody wouldn't let us win!
What possessed the gods to make a man like you?
They didn't make me. Troutman did.
God didn't make Rambo. I made him.
To survive war, you must become war.
That's why I'm your worst nightmare come true.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
Your worst nightmare.
You will not draw first blood.
It's who draws last blood that matters.
I'll admit that I was initially skeptical about Rambo in MK11. He's a human soldier, and I found it challenging to see where he fits in the universe. However, After reviewing the evidence, I am floored by this character in this game. I'd wager that NetherRealm rivaled their portrayal of Spawn with Rambo. I struggled to find a single negative, and although I'll admit some of the lines fall flat in terms of delivery, that's just Stallone for you. This might be the hottest take of the entire video, but I'm happy to blast John Rambo into the S tier.
The realms are mine. I claim this timeline for the Viltrum Empire.
You will burn for this invasion.
Over 2 years after NetherRealm Studios announced that it would no longer support Mortal Kombat 11, the anticipation behind the new timeline reboot, Mortal Kombat 1, was in full force. At the time, leaks indicated what fans could expect for DLC characters, and sure enough, on July 23, 2023, NRS made it official. Combat Pack 1 would feature 6 fighters, including the next character in this video, the Viltrumite Nolan Omni-Man Grayson. Originating in the Invincible comic book and Amazon Prime series, Omni-Man is a powerful being from the planet Viltrum. He arrived on Earth and married a woman named Debbie, who then gave birth to his son Mark, who would ultimately become the titular hero, Invincible. It is later revealed that Omni-Man was sent from his home planet to conquer Earth, which leaves his presence and intentions somewhat ambiguous in the series. Omni-Man's Mortal Kombat 1 bio explains that the Viltrumite warrior Nolan Grayson, better known as the superhero Omni-Man, long fought to protect his adopted home as one of Earth's most powerful champions. He even raised his son, the hero known as Invincible, to follow in his footsteps and carry on his legacy. But Omni-Man's true mission was never benevolence, it was conquest. And the Viltrum Empire, hungry for expansion, has no intention of stopping at Earthrealm. His ending explains that his arrival in the MK1 universe occurred as a result of Shang Tsung's desperation to defeat Liu Kang. After arriving, rather than working with Shang Tsung and failing to complete his task of conquering Earth in his own timeline, Omni-Man believed delivering a new timeline to the Viltrum Empire would suffice.
For a few years, annexing realms satisfied the Empire's hunger for conquest. But my people have excellent memory. I knew sooner or later we would return to our own timeline, to Earth, to finish my original mission. I only hope my son has had time enough to prepare.
From a moveset perspective, Omni-Man needs nothing more than raw strength, considering he's one of the most powerful characters to ever appear in Mortal Kombat. His special moves include the Mega Clap, Giblet Maker, Viltrum Stance, which can be cancelled into several different moves, Invincible Rush, and Fly Away and Tord. His Fatal Blow cleverly references his fight with Mark in the Invincible show, and we can take that one step further with his Trained Killer Fatality. This finisher brilliantly combines a sequence from the epic father-son showdown with the classic subway stage. Omni-Man's second fatality, like Putty, gruesomely references the death of Red Rush in the show. Some of his brutalities also reference the show. I feel the developers did a great job capturing J.K. Simmons' likeness and Omni-Man's look in the show. His gameplay design accurately portrays the power of Omni-Man, showing his speed, strength, and even his ability to effortlessly dodge incoming attacks. I also can't forget to mention the inclusion of J.K. Simmons' voice, since he does a great job delivering lines. Although the character interactions aren't as detailed as in MK11, Omni-Man sounds good, all things considered.
What is an alternate me doing here? Does the name Angstrom Levy mean something to you? You should have discarded Debbie years ago. I'll set the example for Mark you failed to be. You wouldn't dare. You failed to conquer Earth, didn't you? It's all under control. Stick to your own timeline. Martian Man, is that you? No, this is more fucked up than that.
Stop, please. Don't hit me with water.
Has no one told you I've drowned an entire city?
I've battled an immortal before.
Then you know I will return to haunt you.
Pairing that with his overall look, his bio, his ending, and his moveset, I'd have to say Omni-Man is faithful to the source material. You do have to slightly temper your expectations though, as I genuinely believe Omni-Man could realistically rip half of these characters to shreds. Even so, since it's Mortal Kombat, NetherRealm made him a believable fighter in this universe. The inclusion of Omni-Man in this game felt odd from the outset, but there is a definite theme happening here similar to that of Mortal Kombat X with the horror movies and MK11 with the 80s action heroes. NetherRealm clearly wanted to include superheroes and supervillains in this game, which explains the next two guest characters I'll cover as well. In any case, since NRS obviously can't add Superman or any well-known heroes from the DC universe, Omni-Man is a fair compromise. As an avid Invincible fan, I believe the developers did right by this character, and they checked all the boxes that I've outlined in this video. The subway fatality is iconic and probably one of the best in the entire game. The only negatives that stood out to me are just that his moveset seems a little bit boring in my opinion, and the costumes are definitely dumbed down, but that's more of an indictment on this game overall. Although I didn't have many negatives to point out, I can't quite put Omni-Man in the S tier, because I don't think he measures up to these characters. But since I think he's a strong character overall, I'm gonna put the Viltrumite in the A tier.
Woo, suck on that! Seriously? You want to eat me?
Idiot.
From the Invincible universe, we venture to the DC universe to cover Christopher Smith, otherwise known as Peacemaker. NRS announced Peacemaker alongside Omni-Man in the initial reveal, and he'd ultimately land in Mortal Kombat 1 on February 28th, 2024. Peacemaker originated in the DC comic series, but this version is based on John Cena's portrayal in this film and the Peacemaker show on Max. This character is a vigilante anti-hero in the DC extended universe, sworn to achieve peace at all costs. He's known for his strength, trusty pal Eagly, and his arsenal of helmet-based abilities and attacks. His MK1 bio explains that Christopher Smith, the Peacemaker, cherishes peace with all his heart, so much so that he will kill anyone and everyone necessary to get it. That is why he molded himself into an unstoppable soldier. Peacemaker believes himself as the greatest expert in weapons and warfare, but Peacemaker's heroism masks a troubled soul. Raised by an abusive father, Peacemaker is an extreme loner. Only recently, as a member of the secret team assembled by Argus for Project Butterfly, has he learned to trust and rely on others. They became the family he never had. Now thrust into the Mortal Kombat universe, Peacemaker has vowed to bring peace to the realms. He won't stop until he finishes the mission. Peacemaker's ending explains that Eclipso sent him to the MK1 timeline, where he encountered a universe in need of peace.
Project Magician. I was way over my head with Eclipso. I mean, the dude's a goddamn god. Somehow, though, I got his back to the wall. Freaked him out so bad, he cast a spell that sent me here. I guess he thought sending me here would finish me? But I tell you, I feel like I've come home. This place needs peace. Bad. And like me, folks here will do whatever it takes to get it. So bring on Shao, Reiko, and those dickhead sorcerers. I'll drop them all first chance I get.
Peacemaker's diverse and on-brand moveset centers mostly around his various helmets, including the human torpedo, anti-gravity, and sonic boom. On top of those helmet attacks, he packs a desert eagle, an actual eagle, blow darts. Long story short, he's packing heat in his arsenal. His fatal blow is hilarious, featuring a mixture of heavy artillery and eagly, and he even blasts a peace sign into the opponent. Peacemaker's fatalities are simultaneously gruesome and hilarious. Pest Exterminator directly references the TV series.
What the fuck? Little shit.
While the other is an original creation but equally funny and fitting for the character. The Vigilante's brutalities are also hilarious, and some even reference the show.
Eat peace, motherfucker!
No!
Force field! Let's see Batman do that. Sonic boom! Alright, that might be overkill.
I'm probably starting to sound like a broken record at this point, but damn did NetherRealm design this character well from top to bottom. Those who can actually see him will realize that this is John Cena in video game form, even more so than this look in an actual WWE game. Peacemaker's gameplay design and line delivery are brilliant, playing right into the character's goofiness. Although the skins are lacking, which I mentioned in the Omni-Man analysis, everything else is spot on. As an extension of the last segment, I'll continue by saying Peacemaker in MK1 is absolutely perfect. There are references in his dialogue, but they are minimal at best.
Oh shit. Did Cecil send you after me?
Only if Cecil is code for Amanda Waller.
Do you know who I am?
The bastard child of Joker and Two-Face?
I hear your father is a real charmer.
How the hell you know about him? On my world, Aquaman's a total poser. No way, so is mine.
The faithfulness stems mostly from his design, moveset, and of course the fact that John Cena voices him. Overall, Peacemaker is yet another great addition to Mortal Kombat. Although I feel NRS had it relatively easy with this one, it's hard for me to count that against them. This version of Peacemaker is relatively new to the DCEU, but his debut movie and follow-up show are great. He's just such a unique and unconventional character, and to be honest, a nice change of pace compared to the legacy characters we got in MK11. The dialogues are hilarious, and though he is goofy, he's a nice complement to the roster. I struggled to figure out where to place Peacemaker, but I'm honestly comfortable placing him in the A tier, right beside Omni-Man.
Another useless fucking blind guy.
Useless. I'll show you useless.
Alas, we have arrived at the final guest character in the most recent in Mortal Kombat 1, John Don't Call Me John Gilman, also known as Homelander. Before digging into this character, I'll get the Anthony Starr MK1 lore out of the way. Despite his interest, it's been widely publicized that the boy's actor did not provide the voice work for Homelander.
Hey, have you seen Call of Duty? I voiced Call of Duty, so go play that.
Now, it's unclear what transpired, and although Starr provided his facial likeness, the character is actually voiced by Jake Green. I'll get to my thoughts about that later, but I wanted to address that up front. With that covered, Homelander is the unhinged superhero created by the Vought International Corporation using the serum Compound V. This evil company subjected him to strenuous experiments to test the limits of his power, ultimately creating the sociopathic superhero you see in the boys' show and comics. His MK1 bio describes Homelander as the most powerful being on the planet and the leader of the Seven, an elite group of superheroes managed by Vought International. He's the strongest supe, possessing super strength, laser eyes, and the ability to fly. Although he presents himself as a true patriot, he is a murderous, narcissistic sociopath with an insatiable need for validation, love, power, and calcium. He enters the Mortal Kombat universe, looking to destroy everything in his path. Homelander's tower ending depicts him saving his Earth from Netherrealm monsters that emerge through a portal. After doing so, he proceeds through the portal, enters the MK1 timeline, and has a field day, even eliminating the fire god Liu Kang somehow. What you see is what you get from a move perspective with Homelander. He's got various laser-based attacks and a few others mixed in, but nothing too exciting on that front. Although his moveset is lackluster, Homelander's fatalities and brutalities make up for it. Both fatalities reference scenes from the show. And the brutalities mostly follow with similar inspiration.
Shh, it'll be okay.
Fucking blind guy. What happens if, I don't know, I do this? No, you're just another useless fucking blind guy.
Assessing the design is somewhat tricky with Homelander. I like that the character captures Anthony Starr's facial likeness because he is Homelander, and there's no debating that. He passes the eye test with his default costume and a few others, and Homelander's gameplay design definitely fits him as well, but it's just okay in my opinion. As I mentioned in the design portion, NRS did well bringing Homelander into Mortal Kombat 1. I know there was quite a bit of controversy with Anthony Starr not voicing the character, but I think Jake Green was a solid replacement. I'll admit that some lines did fall flat, but I think most of it was well done and not as distracting as some of the Terminator's lines in MK11 by comparison. So, while not technically faithful, the end result is probably about a 7 out of 10 in the voice department. Not bad considering it's not Anthony Starr. As far as the references, we already covered the fatalities, but this throw is another reference.
No one can stop me.
And various lines and a few brutalities are also direct references as well. Here's a comparison of a few lines in the game versus the show.
You are the most insecure, most selfish—
Sticks and stones, Katana.
Starlight, sticks and stones won't break my bones, but words.
No, sir. Your contempt for everyday beings is disgraceful.
Why? They're nothing. Water balloons filled with blood and meat.
Who are you? A water balloon filled with blood and meat.
You should thank your gods. I am what I am.
Should be thanking Christ that I am who and what I am.
You need me. You need me to save you.
Because you need me. You need me to save you.
What if that's right? What if I am just talent? What do you care what a bunch of mud people think?
I am just talented. They all know I'm a fraud. Now, what do you care what a bunch of mud people think?
You and me, we're different. We're better. I'm better. You still cry like a baby for love and approval.
Dirty, shriveled, anemic little part of you that still mules for approval and love and a mommy and a daddy and a boo-hoo-hoo.
You finally become who you're meant to be. Pure, clean, like marble.
Well, then, my boy, you can finally be who you were always meant to be. Pure, clean, like marble.
Of all the 14 characters we've discussed thus far, Homelander might be the most challenging character on this list for me to assess. The super powerful guy with lasers concept happened in Injustice 1 and 2, so his place in this universe feels underwhelming. I suppose you could apply that same logic to the Joker's various appearance under the NRS umbrella, but the Joker is a more well-developed character with literal decades of source material to pull from. You can't say the same for Homelander. Although I don't think the lack of Anthony Starr is a deal breaker, I find Homelander a little boring overall. There are some clever references included in the interactions, fatalities, and brutalities, and I think he definitely fits into the universe, but I'm just not quite sold on him. Even so, I think he is faithful, and there's enough attention to detail that I feel comfortable putting this deranged milk drinker in the B tier. And there you have it, all 14 guest characters in Mortal Kombat ranked. Here's a quick recap of the tier list. The S tier included Kratos, the Predator, the Xenomorph, Spawn, and Rambo. The A tier included Jason Voorhees, the Joker, Omni-Man, and Peacemaker. The B tier included Leatherface, the Terminator, RoboCop, and Homelander. The C tier included only Freddy Krueger, and there were no characters in the D tier. If I were to rank the overall character offerings from best to worst, I'd probably put Mortal Kombat X first, Mortal Kombat 11 second, MK1 in third, and MK9 in fourth. I know there's a lot of negative sentiment around guest characters, especially from die-hard Mortal Kombat fans, but I seriously enjoy this concept. I'd feel a lot different if they were cheap cash grabs with zero faithfulness, but it's clear the developers have done their research. As a result, I found it difficult to rank any of them in the D tier because none of them are truly that bad. These crossovers require serious research, and the small intricate details show just how much NRS cares about these characters. If I were to pick one guest to return of the ones discussed, it's easily Kratos for me. His legend in gaming culture has grown significantly since his first appearance way back in 2011, and I'd love to see him back in the future. As a matter of fact, I'd like to see more gaming characters included since we've only seen Kratos, unless you count the Joker, who was in Injustice and MK vs. DC, but he's more of a comic character in my eyes. I know this concept has been done to death, but if you had to pick a character from a movie, TV series, and video game to add to Mortal Kombat, who would you go with? Let me know in the comments. On that note, I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the 14 guest characters in Mortal Kombat. Now's your chance to let me know your thoughts on my rankings, and of course, provide yours below. I know this usually comes down to personal bias, and although I try to remain as objective as possible, my own bias does creep in. Maybe you're a die-hard RoboCop fan, or thought Rambo was a terrible DLC character. If that's the case, I want to hear your perspective, and please drop some other tier list ideas in the comments section. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll be back with another video soon.